I'm Chantal.
I'm Jadera.
I'm Alicia.
And we are Perplex Productions. Our media trailer is titled Confined, which has connotations of restriction, being restrained, and a lack of escape, which links to the idea of psychological thrillers. In order to make our trailer, we had to follow conventions of psychological thrillers and action thrillers. Psychological thrillers mainly follow the conventions of built-up suspense, slow to fast-paced action, an in-depth look into the characters of the plot. We also noticed that action thrillers follow the same conventions minus character depth regarding trailers.
We use real media projects such as psychological thriller trailers to inspire our trailer. We use trailers such as The Shape of Water, Seven, Get Out, Inception, Mother, and Source Code, The Number 23. All these films had psychological elements to them. We found that a convention of these trailers was that at the beginning there was usually expositional conversation that set up the whole premise of the film. And we also added this to our trailer. We also saw that at the beginning of trailers there were usually a few scenes that set the standard for normality in characters. Before the world was disrupted, the idea of equilibrium and then disrupting the equilibrium. This is something we used in our own trailer with a small montage of Jordan's life prior to her getting run over.
Nearer to the end of the trailer, we found that there was a montage of action and conflicting moments that were big plot points in the full feature. So we did this. This is a convention that we followed in our own trailer, as at the end we had a montage of fight scenes and conversations that we thought would be important. Films such as Inception and Get Out use colour correction to differentiate between different worlds and different situations. For example, when all was going well or all was normal, there was no colour correction. But when everything was distorted or they were in a different world, then they'd use colour correction to show that. So we also did this in our trailer.
Our main inspirations were Source Code and Get Out. The conventions we saw mostly within these two trailers were themes of the mind and escape, warped realities and worlds. This idea of figuring something out, which we incorporated into our trailer, so audiences could understand it's a psychological thriller. Our trailer is more non-realistic due to the warped realities we show with the use of warped worlds. Warped realities connote this idea of being away from genuine reality and your mind's being away from reality as well. It also links to the idea of confinement as you want to leave the warped reality. Most psychological thrillers are based in urban or secluded areas, either not showing the specific setting or showing parts of it like Get Out does. Since our trailer is based mainly within an alternative reality, we instead used our establishing shot to combine both the idea of a warped reality and cities with the tilt of the train.
Some psychological thriller trailers show a snippet of or flashback of what life was like before for the protagonist, which we use within our trailer to give off the idea that what is occurring within the trailer isn't the usual life of the character. This has helped in like the inspirations used by Jake Gyllenhaal's of Source Code, how he was waking up on the train. Intertitles were used to help drive the force of the narrative and to clue audience in, which we replicated within our own trailer. Our main inspiration in terms of narrative was Source Code, in which the plot followed a captain who found himself in a different man's body and had to figure out who bombed the train and how to stop the train from being bombed. Again, connecting ideas of alternate realities and not being able to trust your mind. We showed this with Jordan, our main character, waking up in an alternate reality and realizing that she only has 72 hours to escape or she'll be stuck there. Most psychological thrillers have a hidden plot twist which can't be seen within the trailer for obvious reasons. Our plot twist was that the alternate reality was actually a figment of Jordan's imagination while she was in a coma. As shown within both trailers, there's this idea of time until something bad happens.
As we said, Source Code inspired our narrative, while Get Out inspired our editing style and the use of mise-en-scène. The idea of a race against time is shown through our fast-paced editing and montage moments in our trailer, with our two main characters running through doors and hallways, which goes hand in hand with the build-up of our music. This helped build up more suspense and create a sense of mystery. Our complex narrative is seen throughout as we don't show who is really after Jordan or why she's in this alternative universe. This is also seen through Zion's character, where we're not quite sure whether she's a friend or a foe, which is shown through the fact that she kidnaps Jordan at the beginning of the trailer, but then later on in the trailer Jordan is urging her to come with her. So it's like this adds more confusion to the audience. The convention of trailers is that we never really know what the reality of the situation is, and that's something that we also did in our own trailer because we can't show the ending, because then it obviously ruins the trailer and then we're not following the convention of the trailer. The use of the symbols and the barcodes on the arms of Zion signifies Jordan being taken from one world to another world where the rules are different and where it's not quite clear where she belongs.
Because in our world we don't use barcodes.
In some of the trailers that we researched, we found that intertitles were very static and didn't move much. In our own trailer, we used intertitles, but we made ours move in a way that also linked to our plot. Main psychological thrillers have an essence of suspense and action, but usually it focused more on the supernatural. We developed this by making our film trailer more of an action psychological thriller hybrid rather than just being one or the other. I think that this was a good way of developing the conventions of psychological thrillers, as it gave us the opportunity to include more of a sense of action, which we all felt would elevate our trailer to a level that other trailers may not have been at. Okay, how we have challenged these conventions. From research that we have carried out, we discovered that most types of individuals in psychological thrillers were predominantly white, as well as male. However, we have challenged this convention as our cast is all black and all female. Having an all-female cast of actresses playing roles normally associated with males, for example, a government agent, subverts the typical idealistic view that it should be all male. This challenges the convention of psychological genre, as we have not conformed to the dominant ideology that is stereotypically seen in these genres of films.
Furthermore, from all the trailers we watched, we saw that usually the main protagonist or antagonist within a psychological thriller were middle-aged, usually between 25 and 40 years old. But this is another convention that we challenged, as our main protagonists are both young, both college university age, rather than being older. This challenges the stereotype of older people being a bit something, and it gives our trailer a different viewpoint that many psychological thrillers might not or don't have.
In terms of subverting from like trailers, we didn't actually start with an equilibrium. Instead, we went straight into the disequilibrium. This helps suggest that the trailer will be nothing like what general audiences would usually see or see from the actual film industry. This is helped by the flashbacks and also the voiceover at the start of the trailer, and also Zion looking straight into the camera when she's talking. We're inspired by the trailer Gone Girl, which has flashbacks but no real equilibrium as seen by the voice dubbing. We also subverted from normal character archetypes which were coined by prop. Most psychological thrillers do have this idea of a hero, a donor and a helper. However, we subverted from all of this as we don't have a donor, and Zion's character can either be seen as a false hero or a helper depending on how you look at it, which makes her morally ambiguous. This sticks to the idea of a villain, but it isn't clear as to whether the government agent is the sole villain or the government as a whole is a villain.